Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Global capital flows remain tight as the Philippines' balance of payments surplus shrinks to just $82 million in September, down from $3.5 billion a year ago. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian warns that the DPWH budget for 2026 could be slashed by as much as 340 billion pesos over red flag projects. And 3 GSIS board members who called for President Wick Veloso's resignation stepped down from their posts. First, let's take a look at how global financial markets performed overnight. U.S. stocks surged on Monday, lifted by strong gains in financial and tech shares. Upbeat earnings results revived risk appetite, while investors grew less worried about regional bank credit risks. Apple stock hit a record high, while Meta, Netflix, and Alphabet also posted solid gains. The third quarter earnings season is in full swing, with major companies such as Tesla, Netflix, IBM, Intel, GM, and Ford set to release results this week, along with big industrial players in aerospace, transport, and manufacturing.
The speculative juices are flowing. So you asked about the market today and the fact that it's up 1%. That's building on a rally that just keeps on going. It's got a lot of momentum behind it. I've been arguing that it's a little frothy. I actually rebalanced portfolios a little bit just because it's been a great year so far. But I think part of what's reflected is all of the skepticism that happened early in the year when we had the big sell-off back in April. People got too defensive.
The Dow Jones, S&P 500, and the Nasdaq all rose by more than 1%. Over in Europe, markets also closed higher. London's FTSE rose by 0.5%, Germany's DAX up by 1.8%, and France's CAC 40 up by 0.4%. Global capital flows remain tight, and it's showing up in the Philippines' external accounts. Our balance of payment surplus shrank to just $82 million in September, down from $3.5 billion the year prior. This marks the second straight month of surplus, helping to narrow the country's end September deficit to $5.3 billion. But it's still a reversal from last year's surplus. The deficit is mainly driven by a continued trade gap, although remittances and foreign investments help offset some of that shortfall. The country's reserves grew to $109 billion, providing a strong buffer equivalent to over 7 months of imports. The central bank expects the overall balance of payments deficit to end 2025 at $6.8 billion. The pressure may be building in the markets, but the Maharlika Investment Corporation is keeping its eye on the long game. The Maharlika Investment Corp remains focused on its long-term investments. That's according to MIC President and Chief Executive Officer Rafael Consing Jr. This amid calls for the fund to help stabilize the Philippine stock market, which has been on a downtrend due to weak sentiment and a widening corruption scandal threatening the country's growth prospects. He said that the fund was guided by a dual mandate to generate optimal long-term financial returns and to contribute to national development. He emphasized that MIC's investment decisions were driven by a strategy that prioritized sustainable growth and prudent risk management. He also notes that with a paid-up capital of 125 billion pesos, the corporation's priority was to build a diversified portfolio of assets through rigorous due diligence to achieve its long-term objectives. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry Vice President Brian Ang earlier urged the Sovereign Wealth Fund to deploy some of its cash to stimulate the stock market by buying blue-chip shares. Power rates are set to climb again, this time to fuel the country's shift to clean energy. Consumers may see higher electricity bills starting next month. This comes as the Energy Regulatory Commission approved a new feed-in tariff allowance, or FIT-all, a charge that goes to pay renewable energy developers. At a press briefing, ERC Chairperson and CEO Francis Saturnino Juan said that the commission approved a new rate of 21 centavos per kilowatt hour, up from the previous 12 centavos. The ERC explains that under the feed-in tariff system, qualified power plants receive payment for the electricity they generate and deliver as provided by law. The fit-all is a uniform charge billed to all on-grid consumers to help support the country's renewable energy program. Flood control and road projects may face a major shakeup as lawmakers zero in on questionable DPWH spending. The DPWH budget for 2026 could be slashed by around 340 billion pesos. That's according to Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. He cited over 6,000 red flag projects worth 271 billion pesos, plus an estimated 20% overpricing across the board for road projects. If the cuts happen, the DPWH budget would drop from over 600 billion pesos to about 350 billion pesos. Gatchalian stressed that this is still a potential cut, pending documents from the DPWH to explain the questionable projects. Senators Loren Legarda and Bam Aquino also suggested a 25 to 30% across-the-board cut to the agency's infrastructure spending due to the corruption concerns. Another public fund is under fire, this time inside the government service insurance system. 3 GSIS board members resign amid concerns over President Wick Veloso's investment strategies. These trustees include former Ombudsman Maria Merceditas Gutierrez, Emmanuel Samson, and Rita Riddle, whose resignations take effect upon the appointment of their successors. They earlier called for Veloso's immediate resignation, claiming that his investment decisions lacked transparency and led to 8.8 billion pesos in losses. Veloso denied the accusations, pointing to strong financial figures and saying he'll stay as long as he has President Marcos's trust. The board members, however, say his success claims are predicated on misleading metrics. A sharp jump in wealth and questions follow. Senate President pro tempore Pancho Lacson's net worth spiked by as much as 186 million pesos in the span of 3 years when he was out of public service. Lacson told reporters on Monday that when he left the Senate in 2022, he and his business partners engaged in legitimate real estate and trading business activities, and this caused the increase in his net worth. The increase was also reflected in his income tax returns. For 2021, Lacson said he paid taxes amounting to 4.8 million pesos and nearly 12 million in 2024. The senator said he will provide further details on his 2025 Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SALN. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's check on how Asian markets are doing this Tuesday morning. As of 10:11, the Nikkei index is up by 1.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index up by 1.5% as well. Shanghai's Composite up by 0.5%, and Singapore's Straits Times Index up by 1.4%. Now here at home, local shares started the week on the back foot as investors turned cautious ahead of the earnings season and weighed lingering economic and political risks. The main gauge slipped slightly Monday after trading sideways for most of the session. Analysts say investors chose to stay on the sidelines awaiting third quarter results for signs of some corporate resilience. Market sentiment was tempered by fresh concerns over governance and public trust in state institutions, following all of the reports of irregularities in flood control projects. There was some early buying action lifted by gains on Wall Street and on optimism that U.S. President Donald Trump may cut tariffs on China, but that momentum faded towards the close. In the near term, analysts expect the main gauge to remain range-bound, with traders taking their cues from upcoming corporate earnings and global market signals. Taking a look at the main gauge right now, as of 10:12, the PSE index is trading to the upside, higher by 0.6% to 61.19. The broader all shares index in the green as well, higher by 0.3%. to 36.74. Taking a look at these sub-indices, all are showing some strength except for the property counter, which is down marginally, down by just 0.1%. Now, total volume traded is at 236 million shares, valued at 766 million pesos. Market breadth almost neck and neck. We've got 68 advancers, 64 decliners, and 40 stocks unchanged. Taking a look at the currencies, the peso opened at 58.15. This against the greenback, up from its previous close of 58.17. Now, the country's biggest water utility is making a splash in the capital markets. Maynilad Water Services announces its final offer price for its highly anticipated IPO. The company sets the final offer price at 15 pesos per share for its coming IPO on the main board of the Philippine Stock Exchange under the trading symbol MYNLD. The offer covers over 1.66 billion common shares to be sold to the public and 24.9 million primary shares reserved for First Pacific Company Limited. It also includes an over-allotment option of up to 249 million primary shares and an upsize option of up to 355 million secondary shares. Maynilad said that the final offer price was determined through a book-building process with its joint global coordinators and book runners. The company noted that total gross proceeds could reach 34.33 billion pesos, assuming full exercise of both options. In business, trust is everything, and right now that trust is taking a hit with questions on how public funds are being spent and how projects are getting awarded. But what if transparency itself could be built into the system? That's what blockchain promises. It's not just a tech buzzword, and it's being used as a real tool to make government spending traceable, verifiable, and tamper-proof. Leading that push is Bayani Chain, a homegrown tech company founded by Paul Soliman. He joins us now to talk about how blockchain can bring back trust in the government and why transparency may be the country's strongest form of infrastructure. Hi, Paul. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Ms. Maiki. Glad to be here.
Okay, Paul, corruption. They say it's one of the biggest taxes on business in the Philippines. How can technologies like blockchain help not just limit corruption, and not just trace it after the fact, but actually prevent it from happening in the very first place?
Sure. Like what I always say, like no technology is really a silver bullet to eradicate or simply remove corruption, because that's a human issue. But, using blockchain and AI in combination of that, public accountability will be, a gold standard, because whenever they use this public funds, or let's say the government put it on a blockchain already, the old saying says, touch, move. You can't already edit it or remove it. Then later on, AI and ordinary Filipino watchdogs can really investigate without any censorship from the government.
Yeah, okay. Let's just give the viewers a sense of what blockchain actually is. It's just put in simple terms, it's like a notebook, a shared notebook, where you see every item inputted and outputted. Maybe you can expound on this further.
Sure. So it's a notebook. Yeah, it's a ledger. So whatever you put it there, in accounting terms, it has a debit, credit, right? Whatever is a debit, and it's always a combination of both. And the good thing about that, it's your notebook will be distributed to all people in the world.
Yeah, millions all around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a lot of information, but we have the tech now to mine all of that. What if the wrong data is entered? I mean, trust, accountability. A blockchain has accountability by design. So talk to us about what if the wrong data is inputted into the system.
Sure.
What next?
If any corrupted or wrong data was inputted into the system, because blockchain is an append-only system, meaning it will not allow you to edit or delete. So you need to have an amendment, if I may use that term. Mm-hmm. So technically, the original wrong data or corrupted data will stay there. Mm-hmm. But the amended data will also be there. So technically, like document 1 will have 2 different records and document that will be seen by the people.
Yeah, and everybody, and that's the important part,
Yep.
the visibility, seen by the people. Critics say that technology changes so fast. that the government should avoid making blockchain mandatory because something new, something better could come up. As technology does change, how do we make it tech neutral but open?
Sure. Yes, when we craft a law for that, the government needs to always provide some sort of provision on doing an open source system. This might prevent using a lock-in technology, because at the end of the day, if government is committed to really doing transparency and all of this future-proofing, the source code should be open source. So anyone can collaborate and also improve the system of the government.
Yeah, very interesting what you're doing. And what's interesting is your background also, Paul. 17 years in the business application industry. You were the first Filipino Microsoft MVP for business applications, and you're the first regional director, first in the Philippines. AI was kind of like in your DNA early on in life. Tell us, you've worked with the Department of Budget and Management. You built blockchain for them that just went live in July of 2025. That was 2 years in the making. What were the pain points that the DBM wanted to solve, and how did you guys solve them with blockchain?
Sure. I mean, at every implementation, it's really people, process, and technology, right? 10% is just technology, but 90% of of the risk and challenges are people and process, right? So that's the reason why DBM carefully crafted first the policy on what to put in on the blockchain or not, because there are private information that you cannot really disclose on the public, but you also want DBM also wants a backup or a redundancy of the current public information that they have on the internet. Let's say, for example, the DBM website is down because now they have Saros and NCA in the blockchain. People can look at the blockchain level that, in a way, 99% has an uptime. So that particular challenge of always staying up is really being resolved by blockchain now.
Mm-hmm. So right now, as the Philippines faces a tsunami of corruption allegations, how do you think blockchain can help us?
It will really make us accountable, or public official accountable. Because, we saw a lot of news about tampering evidences in the DPWH level, the paper level. Imagine that, they're putting peanut butters on this paper.
That's right. That's right. There's a lot of resistance to technology because people want to revert to the manual system. There's some people that want to keep it at the manual system. How does blockchain help limit that or cut that?
Sure. So imagine that the blockchain is in place from the very beginning. Like the normal databases of the government integrates on the blockchain seamlessly. So even though they try to corrupt the data or try to edit that,
many more will see that mistake.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Beyond government applications, how are businesses using blockchain?
Sure. We're exploring a lot in supply chain industry, because if you will see supply chain, you need to track where it was manufactured. Are they violating any issue with labor, etc. So the serial number of the manufactured or expiring goods up to the level of first mile delivery. Mm-hmm. And businesses that is included in the consortium or that supply chain can easily reconcile information if they have blockchain on their system.
So you're really harnessing and consolidating all of that information, and you can do it for any industry.
Yeah.
Going back to the government, the DICT is in talks with a Dubai-based blockchain firm, Polygon, for a $5 to $10 million grant to pilot a national blockchain budget system. The system, of course, won't hold government funds, but it's going to record budget release as a permanent, verifiable entry for public spending. How significant could this be?
Well, number one, it's no cost to the government. That's why we need to be very happy with that. I also read the article that it's no vendor lock-in. And the ICT and Polygon is aiming for multi-chain approach. So meaning, in terms of censorship resistance, what will happen is we put the public budget documents in a lot of blockchains. So technically, it would really make the Philippines open especially the budget. And foreign investor will see that we're changing and we're also open to have open data on the internet.
Yeah, that would show foreign investors that the Philippines is serious about accountability. There are at the government level, there are countries, the United States, the United Kingdom, Estonia was a pioneer in this. Country level examples. What's your message to both the people in the government and the private sector about why we must use and embrace this technology?
Sure. So, at the end of the day, I think people had seen enough, right? In my opinion, and we saw in a lot of research that they don't trust anymore, centralized authority to handle data, to handle these documents, etc. So it's really a high time for the government to reconsider working with private industry to have a transparency system. We can call it national ledger system, where anybody, any citizen from the world can see how transparent we are in terms of budget, projects, line item, the quantities of, or the location of the flood control project.
Yeah.
We need to be very transparent of that. And I think public and private partnership will really help a lot.
Yeah, the work that you do is very interesting. It's also interesting to see what it can do for the country. Thank you so much, Paul Soliman, the Chairman and CEO of Bayani Chain Ventures. In news overseas, millions took to the streets across the United States over the weekend in a massive show of resistance against what they call a slide into authoritarian rule under President Donald Trump. Protesters say they're standing up for democracy and they're not backing down. Our New York correspondent, Don Tagala, has this story.
More than 7 million people took to the streets across the 50 U.S. states in the second No Kings Day protests over the weekend. From the West Coast to the East, a record-breaking number of protesters showed up in more than 2,700 peaceful demonstrations with no recorded arrest among the protesters. In a presser before the march, protest leaders in New York City say they are here to push back against the Trump administration's anti-immigrant, anti-democratic policies, as well as the militarization of the blue cities and states.
We are here today because it is this city, it is this state that cannot, will not, and will never bend the knee to any regime that tells us that we do not belong. We are America and we won't let you take her.
In New York City, more than 100,000 people marched down on 7th Avenue from Times Square to Union Square. Among them are Filipino Americans who said they are tired of the president's political persecutions of his perceived enemies, mostly them who support the Democratic Party.
This is the only way that we're going to get Trump out of power is by showing in numbers that we do not support kings, we do not support fascists, we do not support all the people that he's appointing and his law cases, etc. So cutting funds for the people who need it the most.
Republican leaders like Mike Johnson have falsely claimed that the No Kings Day March is a Hate America rally and is composed of Antifa protesters, a non-existent organization run by what he claims as the violent radical left. But these Filipino Americans say the No Kings Day March is a peaceful show of force and a celebration of their First Amendment right to free speech and the right to protest.
We don't even have arrests, and they're just trying to pull straws in the wind to say anything negative, to call us Antifa, to call us terrorists, to call us anti-American, etc. And it's not true at all, and we're very peaceful.
I know I may not make a difference, but I think parami ang tao.
For many, the protest is their way to voice their opposition to authoritarianism and to reject the Trump administration's agenda that undermines the rule of law and to rebuke the Trump administration's attack on their First Amendment rights.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go!
Don Tagala, Bilyonaryo News Channel, New York.
And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.